Before we get into the episode, we would like to issue a content warning.
Due to the nature of this show, we will be discussing sensitive topics, which could include murder, violence, sexual assault, domestic abuse, animal abuse, elder abuse, alcohol, drugs, racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ableism, and more. Please take this into account when deciding when, where, and if to listen. Hello and welcome to Looking for a Man in His 30s, a Criminal Minds podcast. I'm Emma.
And I'm Sara, and today we'll be discussing Season 1, Episode 12, What Fresh Hell, which premiered on January 11th, 2006. But first, a little chat.
Yes, so unfortunately, I have told my exciting story for the week on a different podcast where we were recording a bit halfway between.
Yes.
You know, we lost part of one of the episodes, so I had to record in a sling. But you guys all have already heard that. So Shall we talk about the fact that it has been 3 months? No, 2.5 months since we last recorded. Yes.
In the meantime, we've been re-recording other pieces.
Yes. We tried to record this episode, and the recordings kept failing. And I was like, what's going on, Sara? Why won't this record? And then it turns out that our computers were absolutely full and we needed to buy external hard drives. And then you had a lot of hospital appointments. Yeah. I had a lot of volunteer work to do, which I regret signing up for because I've still got a list of stuff that needs doing on camera. But we'll ignore that for the next 2 hours. And so do you have any little chats you want to... Oh wait, I do have the thing that I said at the beginning of the last episode.
Yeah.
Which is the that I use the phrase "what fresh hell" a lot. Often when talking about minor inconveniences, and I actually texted this to Sara when my laptop was doing something weird, and I was like, what fresh hell is this? And she was like, I see what you did there. But apparently Dorothy Parker would also use it just when her doorbell would ring. And fair, she's completely right about that. If anyone is phoning me in the middle of the day or just popping by, I'm like, excuse me, I was busy. I don't just come over and expect me to be like hosting you.
Yeah.
Like, you have to text me and say, can I come over?
Yeah, at least arrange it in like 2 to 3 business days beforehand. Yeah. I don't do last minute decisions.
Absolutely not. I'm like, I have a schedule. I stick to it. Yeah. And I think that might be the most obvious thing that I'm autistic.
Yeah. What was my excuse now?
Your excuse is that you're often very sick.
True. Like
you have a chronic illness.
Yeah.
So you need time to plan social events and then rest days around it. Whereas I am like, well, if you've thrown off one part of my day, the whole day may as well be written off.
Yeah.
Like, if I had a doctor's appointment this morning, Sara,
I
would probably have been like, I'm sorry, Sara, I just can't commit to recording this afternoon.
No.
I have to...
My sister's like that, though. Jen's like that because, I swear, right, she must have ADHD or something. She's never been tested. But, let's just say if she's got an appointment in the afternoon, she can't do anything until that appointment's taking place. And if that appointment gets cancelled last minute, hell will reign.
I also feel like that because you need to be there for that appointment, so you don't want to risk, even though it's like 15 minutes to like the next town. If I was like, okay, so I could go there for lunch, but I have an appointment at 3 o'clock at the doctor's. So then I would need to be at the doctor's about 10 minutes beforehand. So that's 10 to 3. And then 15 minutes before that, that's 25 to 3.
Yeah.
But I'd have to account for there being traffic and roadworks because every single road
Jen's the exact same.
around me. Yeah.
Like, literally, we have to, like, the appointments we've been to recently for Jake, she wants to be there at least half an hour before the appointment.
Yeah.
But then she works out, like, on Google Maps, like, a rough time of how long it takes to get there.
Yeah. You've also got to factor in parking at the hospital.
Oh, yeah. Stresses me out, man.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just one of them who just rolls up last minute and is like, yeah, it'll be fine.
Yeah. If anything, Sarah, you are incredibly laid back.
Yeah.
And
so laid back, I'm horizontal.
Exactly. It is surprising that you gravitated towards me in uni.
Yeah.
You think you would have been like, oh God, no. I've had this enough from a sister. I don't need it from the person I live with as well.
Maybe just because I was that used to it, I was just like drawn. I don't know. I just attract everybody.
You were like, she's a girl with an emo haircut, and she's got an emo fringe, and she's incredibly stressed about what time we need to be where.
I think I need to look after this one.
Yeah, I mean, to be fair, you did. Remember in second year where I pierced my foot and you had to get us to the hospital?
Oh, that was fun.
And
I showed you everyone.
You were the only one that had money for the taxi. You were like, right, I'll call a taxi. Luckily, I have cash on me.
I showed you that our housemates. I showed you the taxi driver. Pretty sure I was a dick to the people in A&E as well.
Well, I don't think you were a dick to the people in A&E. And to be honest, the taxi driver was really, for someone who had like an injury.
Yeah.
He was not particularly sympathetic. And I was like, I have a hole in my foot. Like,
and for the fact that he's a professional driver in a town where I'm assuming he worked for several years beforehand.
Yeah.
I asked him where was the nearest A&E. Was it at Ormskirk Hospital? Was it a different hospital? And he didn't have a clue.
Yeah.
When he mentioned South Pass, I just said, just take us there. Just take us there. It's like, dude, we live out of town. We've lived here for a year. We don't know the area. You do.
Exactly. I didn't even know there was a hospital in there until I got injured.
Yeah.
So, Sarah.
Yes.
Autumn is fast approaching, but so is August. Actually, it is August. So it's not fast approaching, it's here. So you have 100 birthdays this month.
Slight exaggeration, but yes.
Every single member of Sarah's family is born in August.
Yeah.
Even people that marry into Sarah's family have to be born in August, or they're not allowed to marry in.
It's very true.
Isn't that true?
Yeah, well, along those lines. So within the space of 9 days, it's 4 birthdays and an anniversary.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But luckily, her family does still allow the nephews to be part of the family, even though they were born in different months.
Yeah. And the brother-in-law as well. He's a different.
Anyways.
So, other than that,
you have a holiday.
I do. Not just yet, a couple of weeks. But we're like gearing up to get ready for it. We just purchased a bag for the roof of the car. To like transport stuff in. So that should be fun.
And there's a lot of stuff to transport because Sarah's dad packs about 1,700 outfit changes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're only going for a week, but you'd think he's going for a month, the amount of stuff he takes.
Once me and Sarah were talking about how our dads both cannot pack for themselves for a holiday, and I was like, look, my dad is going away for 2 weeks. He's been like, right, here's 2 pairs of shorts, 4 t-shirts, 2 smart shirts, flip-flops, 2 pairs of underwear, 17 pairs of socks. And I'm like, what on earth do you think you're packing for?
That's not even.
What is this holiday where you think you need 17 pairs of socks and 2 pairs of underwear?
Yeah.
I mean, please don't write in and give me any ideas about what my parents' holiday could be.
No.
But I was like, who takes 17 pairs of socks? Like, is your foot actively bleeding? Like, what is going on? Do you need to change your socks 4 times a day because because it's actively bleeding? At that point, I don't think you should go on holiday. I think you should go to the hospital.
Although I do overpack on underwear.
Well, that, having uteruses, you would do.
And you're preparing to shit yourself 20 times a day.
I was event. Oh, did I? I think I might have actually sent you that thing. It was a short video on YouTube of a girl packing.
Yeah.
And she was like, okay, so for a 4-day trip, 4 pairs of underwear. Then pack 24 pairs of underwear in case you shit yourself 7 times a day.
You got to be prepared.
But yes, so I would overpack on underwear because I'm never entirely sure when my period is due.
Yeah, same.
It's always like,
surprise, thank you.
The app is always like, your period is due, and I'm like, what? And I'm like, oh. And it never is. The Fitbit app, for some reason, is not like, you put in the dates as much as you like, and it still cannot predict it. And I was like, what is the point in me having this app? So if you need help packing for the summer, Sarah and I will be hosting a new podcast called What the Fuck Are Our Dads Thinking?
Here, pack like your dad.
Here, pack like your dad. Right, okay.
2 shirts, 3 pants, and shitload of underwear.
Here is 1 passport, 4 odd socks, 1 pair of shorts that are not for the beach. They're actually more of a kind of, if you're at a smart, if you're at a formal, semi-formal wedding in the summer, and 1 t-shirt, which does not go with the smart shorts you've packed. All you need is your medication, your passport, and some money. Everything else is gravy.
Although I have a question though. So your mum and dad go on like holidays that span multiple weeks.
Yes.
How the hell did they pack for that? How the hell does your mum pack for that? Should I say? Because your dad won't be doing that.
Yeah. No, I actually pack for them because I am a much better packer.
Nice.
So basically, when we went to Gran Canaria, there was a washing machine. Yeah. So they have that at South Africa as well because it's like an Airbnb situation. Yeah. So they're not packing 4 weeks worth of underwear.
Imagine like a mind.
Yeah, actually, do you know what? That is a really funny question that my aunt asked us when we were planning a trip to Disney World. Yeah. It has now been postponed until the end of the Trump presidency. So she was like, are there washing machines there? And I was like, yeah, they have a laundrette at the hotel. You can. And she was like, oh, good. I thought I might have to pack enough underwear. And I was like, I don't know if I have that much underwear. Should I buy more? And I was like, this is the 21st century.
Yeah.
You're going to a very touristy destination. Yeah. You are staying at a tourist hotel. They have washing machines. Yeah. I will admit that I actually do just pack more underwear when I'm going to America because I don't want to sacrifice a park day to be washing my clothes. I'd be like, that's a fucking nightmare. No, thank you.
Hell no.
But yes, most places my parents have a washing machine. Anyway, Sarah, you've also put no more hot weather for us after autumn comes. Why has that got a sad face in your notes? Because
summer's supposed to be warmer than average.
Yeah, it has been.
We had our heat wave last month and the month before. But August, at the peak of summer, you think it'd be a bit warmer, but no, currently we have got a storm. Emma's weather's not as bad as mine because I'm further
It's not, no.
But we wind, rain, cold, horrible weather.
Yeah. Sarah is basically living through the end times. And I'm like, why is it so fucking hot? Which I was until 3 days ago. And I was like, oh, thank goodness for that storm. Finally. Finally, I'm not having to like have the window wide open while we're recording.
Yeah. And you can note the change in temperature between the areas of the UK by the fact that I'm wearing a jumper and Emma's wearing this sleeveless top. Ah,
Yes,
200, 300 miles between us, and the difference in temperature and weather is ridiculous.
it is. It is. And also, shall we talk about the fact that I'm coming to see you in October? And I looked up the train prices and
Yay!
they were like £250.
I know.
My God, it would be cheaper to fly. I'm not going to fly, but it would be cheaper, and that
Yeah.
annoys me.
It was that return as well.
It was return, yeah. But that's insane. And I will be changing that. I'll be like, absolutely not.
No.
Yeah, so I'm probably gonna have to wind up getting a coach. We'll be right back with the episode recap after this short break.
Welcome back to Looking for a Man in His 30s. And now we're on to Emma with the episode recap. So, Emma, wheels up.
Wheels up. So we begin this episode with a pan over a city. You can see churches, parks, and then it zooms in on one of these parks where there's a bunch of little girls playing football. It's not soccer, it's football. And we're in Wilmington, Delaware. And I want to say, hey, isn't that kind of a quaint small town? Turns out Wilmington's actually quite big. The coach, who we later learn is Marilyn Copeland, is looking over the game, giving feedback to the players. And then as the match starts again, we see her daughter Billy next to her, who has a cast on her arm, as I did earlier last week. She wants to go and see her dad tomorrow, but Marilyn's like, no, you're still part of the team. You still have to turn up, even though you've broken your arm and you can't play. And I'm like, I think that's unfair. Why can she not spend time with her dad while you're not available to parent?
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
Like, is this man abusive? Is he a danger to Billy? Is that why you're not letting her go? And, you know, it's a day that you're busy, that Billy would just be bored sitting on the sidelines, and you're still not willing to let her go see her dad?
She sounds very controlling.
Yeah. And also, then she's like, yeah, because he doesn't make you do anything. Like, he doesn't make Billy do chores or her homework. And it's like, she also cannot do chores or homework while at the football game.
Yeah.
She is just sitting beside you at. So I don't see the problem.
Yeah.
Also, how many chores or homework can she do if she's broken her arm?
Exactly.
Like, do you expect her to be washing the dishes? She's got a broken arm. She can't do anything. And then her mum's like, you've got a bad attitude. I suggest you run it off. Running? You mean the exercise where you have to move your arms like this as you move your legs? How's she supposed to run? Her arm is in a cast.
Yeah.
It's going to throw off her centre of gravity. And also, she's not going to be able to run properly without moving her damn arms.
Yeah.
So, and then I was like, if she trips, which you would do more easily if your centre of balance is off, she's going to put her hands out instinctively to catch her and damage her arms more.
This woman ain't got a clue.
At this point, I'm like, I just don't think she's a particularly good coach. Like, leaving aside the parent thing, I'm just like, why are you making an injured player run laps?
Yeah.
I don't understand.
Psycho bitch.
Like, I think that if this was any other kid, you would be getting in trouble from their parents. Like, hey, you can't make my kid run laps. She's broken her arm.
Yeah.
So Billy jogs off, slightly moving her arm, as I would, to get away from that mother.
Yeah.
And the screen kind of switches between like a normal camera, and then it looks like in half of the footage, like you've put a Facebook filter over it, like a pop art one that you would do for your profile picture in like 2007. And so it's Like, it's signaling that something is a bit off. Something is a bit scary. Billy gets to just behind a tree where her mum can't see her and gets her phone out to ring her dad and say, hey, I want to live with you. Can we just have a family meeting about it? Me and mum aren't getting on. And honestly, considering how young she is, that is a very grown-up and mature response to a situation.
Definitely.
Like, you're 10 years old and you're saying, when me and mum aren't getting along, I'd like to have a family meeting and I'd like to live with dad for a while.
Mm.
That's much more reasonable than I would be
in
my 30s. So all of a sudden, Billy is approached by a man and the screen keeps going between regular and the effectively 2007 profile picture film. The camera is also spinning a little bit where it's focusing in on one of the kids who's hanging upside down. And so you think in this minute, oh, Billy's gone, she's gone. But she's actually still in the park. The man's asked her for help finding his dog. He's holding a leash, and so she is just looking around at the edge of the playing field. And I'm like, no one is watching her. Her mum, the coach, is not watching her. None of the other adults that are there are like, hey, shall we look at that small child that's just gone off? No worries. Like, there should at least be like a deputy coach there who's like, okay, you're watching the game, I'll watch the players who are off to the side.
Yeah.
And so this man is literally leading Billy off. One of the kids on the playground sees her, and I'm like, so if Marilyn had been paying attention to her daughter, she would also have seen her wander off with a strange man. And then it zooms out on the playground. We can see Billy being driven past in, it looks like a Jeep, but I'm not good with cars, so maybe not.
Yeah, kind of SUV kind of thing, I think.
Oh, yeah. So she is banging on the window, shouting for help, but obviously no one can hear because she's so far away. But again, why wasn't her mother watching her?
Yeah. This is another reason why he should have been allowed to go with the dad in the first place. But this is what happens.
So, cut to the BAU. Garcia has got a little message card and she's walking into Gideon's office saying, thank you for the flowers, and reading out a note that's signed with his name. And she's so happy because obviously in the last episode, Gideon was a nightmare, and if he had been in my office, I would have literally screamed. Although when I was writing this, I did also have an open can of soda right next to my keyboard, and I was eating a chocolate bar. So I don't know if I'm the Gideon or the Garcia in this situation. Yeah. I could be both.
Could be. But I like this bit because she looks so happy and so like.
Yeah, and like he's just like confused. He's like, yeah, sure. What? And at that point, you're thinking, who would have sent the flowers to Garcia and pretended it was Gideon to keep the peace?
I wonder.
You'll find out at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
So, yeah, Gideon's looking super confused, but Garcia's not letting him get a word in edgeways about it. Thank you so much. I appreciate the appreciation. You're not challenging, except you are, but not in the challenging way. And he looks more confused than when Hotch was like, hey, you really annoyed Garcia, and Gideon was like, who the hell is Garcia? Oh. She turns around and sees Gideon's sideboard, which honestly has more framed pictures than my bedroom does, so that's saying something. And she says, oh, is that your family? And he's like, yeah, sort of. And she leaves. JJ comes in. Gideon has to ask JJ what BTW means because it's 2005, so internet shortcuts have not gone mainstream yet. Garcia says, yeah, it means by the way. And he doesn't look interested at all. But unfortunately, JJ isn't just there to be essentially the Rosetta Stone of internet speak for Gideon. She's actually got a case. And we get a nice transition shot again from JJ in Gideon's office handing him the file to her in the briefing room handing up files to the rest of the team. Turns out it's a child abduction, which you might have guessed from the beginning of the episode.
Yeah.
Hotch says, we should have been notified earlier. Billy's been gone for 20 hours. The first day is the most important in a missing persons case. So why the hell were we not rung as soon as we knew she was missing? Turns out the notification was sent so late because they thought she was with her dad. And he has only just rung in the last hour to say, hey, I've got all these missed calls from you, to his ex-wife. And she's like, yeah, is Billy with you? No. I'm sorry. It should not take 20 hours to get hold of him. We find out that the police did go to his cabin and maybe to his new address. But again, he shouldn't have his phone turned off for 20 hours. I don't understand why there was not an alternative way to contact him. Like his mother, his sister. Why were they not like, yeah, we know where he is. He doesn't have her. So it really does say something that this is kind of lax police work by the local police team, because they're like, well, there's a missing child and it's taken us 20 hours to verify she wasn't with her dad. Do you not have, like, other people that he might have seen? Because it doesn't say that you spoke to anyone else, like, you know, that you rang his siblings or his parents or his workplace to find out where he was. So at this point, I'm just like, your daughter is missing. It's taken you 19 hours to respond to a phone call. Were you on a flight from Australia? A direct flight? So we cut to Reed, who's telling us that stranger abductions are incredibly rare, accounting for only 0.5% of all missing cases per year. Most children are abducted by someone they know, a relative, a neighbor, a teacher, someone who works at a local church or youth group or something like that. But while this 0.5% of missing cases is rare, they're most likely fatal. And I do not like this transition because it cuts from Reed in the briefing room saying this to him at a park with kids behind him as he goes, so this percentage of kids are abducted by strangers. This percentage are dead within this. He's in front of a swing set with 4 kids on it. And he's like, all of the kids abducted by strangers, 44% die in the first hour, 75% after 3 hours. Almost all of them are dead after 24. And each time you see another child not coming down on the downswing. And it's like, oh my God, that's very unsettling to just suddenly the kid has gone up on the swing and then he's like, 75% are dead after 3 hours. And then just 3 swings fall backwards, empty. Hotch is like, okay, we've got 4 hours to find Billy. And Gideon's like, shall we go? This isn't a shall we go situation. This is a let's move. If any time there should have been a wheels up, it should have been here, Sarah. I think you should take this up with Mandy Patinkin.
I will message him later.
Yes, exactly. I'm sure he'll respond.
Right.
So then we get the quote from Gideon, where he's quoting the poet W.H. Auden. Evil is always unspectacular and always human, and shares our bed and eats at our table, which I think really relates to the fact that they're saying most child abductions are not by strangers, they are by people we know. Like, so hunting for monstrous child abductors is not going to be especially helpful, because you need to look at people who you are not suspecting, because most children are taken by someone you would have felt safe leaving your kids with. So everyone's got their tasks when they arrive in Delaware. JJ is going to speak to the press. Elle gets put on family liaison, and I do think it's because she's the only other woman on the team. Because she even asks, why me? And does not get a proper response, like nothing to do with her skill set or anything. So I really do feel he went, you're a woman. You know how to talk to. You've got empathy. I think it's a bit of a problem if the rest of your team doesn't have empathy, Gideon. But okay. So Hotch and Morgan are going over the case with the lead detective as they walk around the park where Billy was last seen. The detective says, we're throwing everything at this now that we know it's not a family abduction. A grid search across the area. We have volunteers. We're running a hotline. And she wants to take this super seriously because she knows that they are very late off the mark. So multiple people saw Billy talking to this man, and I'm just like, she's in the football uniform. She's wandering off the pitch with a guy who's not with the football team. Why are you not saying something? Why are you not like, excuse me, coach, is that one of your players? She's wandered off with that strange man who's holding a dog leash. Do you know him? And then the man could be like, no, crap, and run straight over, drag Billy away from this strange man, and be safe. Unfortunately, we learn that lost dog is a common ruse for people to abduct children. So I really want to stress at this point, if you have children, please tell them this. Adults do not ask children for help. If I was walking a dog, it got off its leash and run away, I would not be like, oh, you know who could help me? That 10-year-old. Because children are not especially helpful when you're dealing with a situation like that. Like, then you've also got to look out for them, make sure they're not treading in nettles, make sure something. Adults do not ask children for help. They ask adults. At most, they would say to a child, can you get an adult? Like, you know, if someone has fallen over in the street and a child was there, like playing outside, they might be like, can you go get your parents from inside? I need help getting up. No. They're not going to ask a child.
No.
If I can drum just one thing into the listeners of this podcast, tell your children that.
Mm-hmm. Like at the most, maybe ask them if they'd seen one.
Yeah, but certainly not help searching for one. And even that, I'd be like, hey, are you with a parent? Did you see a dog running away? So yeah, as Reed said, only 0.5% of abductions are stranger abductions. So also teach your children to notice when people are being weird, like not just a stranger, but like their youth group teacher, their Sunday school teacher, their older cousin. Look for odd behavior rather than odd people, and tell your children that if an adult, even an adult they know, is making them feel uncomfortable, that they can tell you and you will take it seriously. Anyway, off of my soapbox now. They've got an Amber Alert out on the car, which is apparently an SUV, so it's not a Jeep. I don't know anything about cars, and I don't care to. They discuss whether the guy had gone there specifically for Billy or was just approaching the first kid he saw. And we find out that guys like these are good at noticing the vulnerable kids, which is awful. The detective gets a call another kid may have spoken to the unsub, so Hotch and Morgan are going there. Cut to Billy's room at Marilyn's house. Gideon is going around Billy's room, hearing echoes of her voice like it's in his imagination, but it's like echoes of her voice talking about making the soccer team, about getting the dog, about how her poor dog died, and she does say that to the unsub. I know what it's like to lose a dog. And So it's like, ooh. Then he's downstairs hearing the opening to a news report with the police chief who is announcing the Amber Alert. Marilyn is saying the news have been running the same story for 2 hours, and the press want to speak to her, but she cannot face it. And so Elle is just like, hey, why don't you just tell me what happened? And Marilyn is like, well, I was focusing on practice, but Billy was giving me attitude and being in right little pain. And I'm starting to feel less sorry for her. Like, yeah, my daughter got kidnapped. She was being a bitch. That was why I wasn't watching her. Like, at least try and make it seem like you were sympathetic. Like, oh, yeah, no, I just told her to run laps because that's what I have all players do when they're not playing. And then I was looking at the thing and then suddenly she was gone. Like, she doesn't seem really sorry about forcing her daughter to go running if she...
No.
And I'm like, you should have been sorry for that even if she wasn't kidnapped. She could have really easily hurt herself. So Elle is talking to Marilyn again and saying, how long have you and your husband been divorced for? Apparently it's been 6 months since it was finalised, but they've been separated for about a year. Gideon pokes his head around the door as Elle asks if Marilyn is seeing anyone, and Marilyn laughs, saying she's not going to have the time between her daughter and her work. Elle tries to press, maybe it was someone you went on one date with, anyone that would have come to the house who Billy might have trusted or known, and Marilyn's like, no, I've only had a few casual dates after work, none of them have been to the house. Marilyn thinks that her daughter wants her parents back together, which I suppose may be very common for children of divorced parents. But Gideon, who has been standing there for a minute, just suddenly pipes up with, how did her dog die? Like, what a way to introduce yourself and let someone know that you're in the room with them. Just, yeah, my daughter, she just wants her parents back together. How did her dog die?
What the?
The hell are you? I mean, I'm guessing Elle introduced Gideon when
Yeah.
because I very much doubt Gideon introduced himself. He was running like right straight up to the room, and the mother was standing there at the bottom of the stairs going, what's going on? Anyway, Billy has a shrine in her room to the dog. That's how Gideon knows. And Gideon's like, okay, so tell me about her relationship with her dad. And Billy and her dad have a really good relationship. They speak every night. They talk about their days. Marilyn even describes them as the best of friends. And oh my God, this is where we learn that the dad survived cancer. So all that earlier, oh, he doesn't make her do her homework or do her chores. And now we learn that he pulls his daughter out of school for field trips. Oh, you mean someone who has a near-death scare might want to make the most of the limited time they have with their daughter, who apparently never gets to see him? That's a shock. I mean, what a bastard.
Mm.
She goes on to say, and I quote, he says we all need to slow down and enjoy life, but he forgets that he has responsibilities, and so does Billy.
He nearly died. He's spending time with his daughter. Let him do what the fuck he wants and stop being a controlling bitch.
Yeah, I am like, oh. I'm like, I'm sorry that he's having fun with his kid and making memories. Like, you are aware cancer is serious, right? It's not like he had, you know, a cold or something that could be treated and then you were over, like appendicitis. They've removed the appendix, now you're fine for life. It's like, why are you so mad about this man's... Why are you so mad at him spending time with his daughter?
Bitch got issues.
And so then she walks off crying because she's obviously upset. And she doesn't want to be the only one laying down the rules. But I'm saying maybe you could relax the rules a bit. And Gideon's like, oh, I think Marilyn's pretty fragile. And I was like, yeah, well, the last thing she said to her daughter was like her, yelling at her.
Mhm.
And she kind of, Elle says, well, how would you feel if that happened? And Gideon just looks off. And you know from the last episode that he has a pretty rocky relationship with his son, Stephen. So he does know how it feels to have a fight with a child, for that to have been the last thing you said for a while. Meanwhile, a yellow Ford is pulling into the driveway, and I only know it's a Ford because I can see the logo. It's Dad, William. So, cut to outside the house. JJ and Reed are watching a bevy of press turn up for the press conference. JJ jokes that her friends in the media lap this sort of thing up, and I'm like, that's probably not a great way to approach child abduction. And Reed's like, they've got a lot of hours to fill. And to which I would make an impassioned plea to the media. If you have lots of hours to fill, could you please stop replaying the same 3 stories every hour for like half of them? Imagine how many news stories you could cover if you didn't tell me the same thing about NHS waiting lists 7 times. Just saying.
Well, last time I watched the news, I thought it was Groundhog Day because it was just the same shit over and over and over and over.
Honestly, sometimes I do like look at the news and I'm like, feels like we've been here before. This feels familiar.
I like so.
Unsettling. So JJ calls over to a reporter that she obviously knows, and I'm getting major vibes that they hooked up once. But this is not going to be explored. Instead, she's like, hey, you came all the way from New York? And he's like, yeah, missing little girls are always going to be news. And I'm like, again, an odd way to approach child abduction. Yeah. I get that it's your job, but if you would not approach it like, it's a movie starring Sydney Sweeney that you're getting to cover. Yeah, Sydney Sweeney movies, always going to be news. Then the reporter launches into a little bit of questioning, saying, hey, why weren't you here yesterday? Why is the FBI only just getting here? He's needling her, and she is very firm. There is going to be a press conference, and you will get the information then, along with everyone else. And he, leans in, hey, what about something for old time's sake? This is a child abduction. Stop, trying to get someone you hooked up with to, give you more information in, a weird sexual way. Stop it. And so she leans into him proper, almost sexual-like, and whispers in his ear, you might want to rethink that tie. Before walking off with a smirk on her face, which I do enjoy. But also, I just feel that this guy was trivializing the abduction of a child. Yeah, it's always going to be news, isn't it? Hey, can't you give me something for old time's sake? Could you be a little bit more professional? William has gone into the house. Marilyn is yelling at him for turning his phone off. What about if Billy got sick? What if we needed to contact you? And he's trying to apologize, but I am with her on this. You cannot turn your phone off for almost an entire day. You are a parent. People need to get hold of you. She storms off, and he walks into the lounge to just find Gideon kind of sitting there very casual, just on the couch, one leg over the other. And he's William's what's being done to find my daughter? Well, at this point, basically nothing. The lead investigator is just kind of sitting there going, oh, yeah, tell me about a dog. Elle luckily jumps in and says, we're assessing it. And hey, we only just found out she was missing after you called your wife back, so maybe cut them a little slack. And Gideon's just hey, where were you, by the way? You didn't pick up for 19 hours. And William tries to say that he has a cabin in Brandywine Valley. And Gideon's like, no, the police went there. And again, William's trying to be like, well, maybe I just went out. And also, I'm like, sorry, are the police just knocking on the door once and then being like, oh, well, he hasn't answered. Try again tomorrow. Like they're freaking delivering my eBay parcel. Like that's what I would expect from a every courier, just knocking on the door once and then walking straight back out again. It's not what I expect from the police in an abduction investigation. William tries to be like, yeah, no, I might have left. Sometimes I turn my phone off so I can commune with nature. And Gideon's like, you didn't fight your wife for custody of your daughter, but you like being in her life. And William tries to be like, hey, I just want to give her stability. Have her live in the house that she's grown up in. So Gideon turns on the old profiler and says, hey, you didn't fight your wife for custody, even though you like being in your daughter's life. And William defends himself, saying he just wanted stability for Billy, her to live in the same house she grew up in, have the same friends, go to the same school. And Gideon's like, yeah, cut the shit. You weren't at your cabin. You weren't at work. You weren't with your friends. And Gideon is really fucking going at this guy. Like, the police didn't call him because they thought your daughter was with you, which is another reason you'd be like, hey, shouldn't the police have tried more than once to contact him? And Gideon is literally screaming at this guy, you're really dedicated to your daughter. Why would you turn your phone off? And the dad's like, I was busy. And Gideon's like, tell me. Gideon then says, hey, also your cabin is 15 minutes away from here. It's been 2 hours since you called your wife and found out your daughter was missing. So why the fuck were you not here earlier? Because also, the FBI have got there before you and they were notified an hour after. So William is obviously flustered and finally explains that he was at a hospital in New York seeing the head of oncology because sadly he's had a relapse and it's spread to the lymph nodes. There's nothing that they can do. And this is really upsetting. And I feel like Gideon knew this. That was why he was like, I know you didn't have anything to do with your daughter going missing, but I'm going to badger you anyway. But also, like, William, what is the point in lying to the FBI about this?
Yeah.
You were at a hospital overnight. Just tell them that. And you don't have to deal with, like, a 15-minute thing where you're, like, going back and forth. Like, I was at a hospital in New York seeing the head of oncology. Here's their number. That would have been such a simple thing to do.
Lying about it just makes it seem more suspicious.
Yeah. And I know you didn't want your wife or your daughter to know, but this man is an investigator. With all due respect, William, he does not care if you're dying or not. What he wants to know is where the hell you were. Yeah. He's not going to be like, oh, William's dying. Well, this is really going to take my focus away from finding Billy. What he's going to do is like, great, you're eliminated. Goodbye. Yeah. On to my next lead. So William is now crying and saying, please find my daughter. And Elle is like going, okay, yeah. And she's putting her hand on his shoulder to comfort him. And Gideon's just like, hey, Elle, ring the hospital and check his alibi and walk off. At this point, I'm thinking the point of family liaison is less about someone liaising between the family and the FBI and more about someone liaising between Gideon and the family. Because he seems like he's not the person that should be dealing with this. Yeah. Like, I don't know why he couldn't have been out in the field with Reed while John Morgan stayed behind. Yeah. So cut to somewhere outside. There's a bunch of little kids playing basketball, and the lead detective, the lead detective, Detective Charlotte Russo, she, Hotch, and Morgan get out of the car, walk over to the kids because they're going to question them. Detective Russett introduces herself to the kids and introduces the agents as well. And one of the kids is like, "Can I see your gun?" No. Thank God no one serves them a gun. So suddenly, one of the women who must be a mother to at least one of the kids is like, "This was a really nice neighborhood until you let the pedophiles and the sex freaks move in and live wherever they want." And I'm like, yeah, they actually haven't mentioned a list of local pedophiles. Why has this not been brought up before? Are those not the first people you're going to? And oh my goodness, this woman is like, yeah, you can't tell from the map exactly where they live because the map isn't very good. And it's like, there might be a reason for that.
Yeah.
It might be that you're not supposed to know exactly where people on the sex offenders registry live, because otherwise you might firebomb their house.
Yep.
And like it or not, these people have been deemed safe to live in public. They have restrictions on where they can live, like not too close to a school, etc., etc. They have served time for their crime, and the justice system deems them able to live outside of prison. Where the hell would you think they would be going? The detective is like, yeah, we're actually talking to the people on the registry, and, you know, sometimes you can get on there for something else that isn't, you know, abusing a child. Sometimes you get on the sex offender registry for things like peeing in public or soliciting a prostitute.
Or indecent exposure.
Yes. I'd argue that indecent exposure is still a risk to children, but, you know, something like I got drunk and I went for a leak, and it happened to be that the pub I walked out of had a school opposite and I was actually peeing on their fence.
Yeah.
That's not the same thing as abusing a child. Rousseau is just using this, like, yes, we are talking to them, thank you, in a voice like she is speaking to a child. It's like, explain it to me like I'm 5, but it's just, you are an impossible woman. Of course we have already checked local pedophiles. Yeah. And then one of the kids is like, hey, what's a pedophile sex freak? And thankfully Morgan is there to completely change the conversation and ask for Connie, who was one of the little kids that the man approached first in the day. And she said, no, I can't help you. I've got to go have lunch. And I cannot stress enough how important it is to teach your kids that they're allowed to say no to adults. No, I can't help you. I have to go home. Goodbye. No, I can't get in your car. I have to go get my mum if I'm leaving the park. Goodbye. Teach your kids they can say no to adults, even adults they know. So Connie says, the man came back after lunch and said his dog was still lost, but I was late for soccer, so I said soccer again. I was late for football. And so the fact that he came back twice to approach the same girl suggests that he's comfortable in the area, and that's where you should teach your kids to look for weird behavior rather than strangers.
Yeah.
So all 3 groups of the team meet back up in public, and I would say within listening distance of the reporters. They get together and say, oh, this guy must be a local because he knew Billy's dog died. And he's using the dog ruse because he knew she would be more likely to come with him. But that doesn't mean that she knows him very well. And the detective is like, right, voluntary search of people's houses. If they don't allow us in, they've clearly got something to hide. And I'm like, yes, but something to hide isn't always a child. Sometimes something to hide is, I have recreational pot. And maybe if you knock on the door and say, we'll give you amnesty for any low-level drug offences if you just let us check your house for the kid. Maybe. Gideon's like, hey, you followed the childhood abduction response plan to the letter for the past few hours. I think it's time we move beyond the plan. If we don't, Billy won't make it past the 24-hour mark. And a reporter with a giant freaking camera on his shoulder is leaning in, like, getting this. And it's like, why can you not have this conversation inside, like in the police station or in the house.
Yeah, because you know the reporters are like right there, so why would they have
And
a
they don't even
TV?
have to be subtle about the fact that they're recording. They've got a giant camera on their
Yeah.
shoulders. It's not like they're holding an iPhone.
Mm.
I am like, what did you expect, guys? There are literally other reporters taking notes and pictures. JJ, hey, corral these clowns. This is your job. Although, I'd argue the team shouldn't be having this conversation within spitting distance of a reporter if they want it to remain confidential.
Yeah.
So, cut to the team addressing local law enforcement. They're saying, we've cancelled the Amber Alert. We think Billy is still here and being held by someone in the local area. We need to pull all police off the street. And one officer is like, hey, are you guys crazy? That goes against all the child abduction procedures that you guys wrote. And Spencer's like, actually, that's just a guideline. And then Spencer's like, we know if the unsub feels like we're closing in on him, he'll kill Billy to avoid detection, so we need to lessen the pressure on him. Gideon says the man is able to hide in plain sight. No one in the neighborhood knows what he really is. And do we really know our neighbors? And no, I don't know the neighbors. I've lived in this house since I was born. I know the first names of about 6 people. But hey, we're getting a transition shot. Gideon standing in front of footage of the man walking his dog. He says solitary activities appeal to this guy. And then, if you pay attention, you notice he's paying a little bit too much attention to the local children. And as he says this, the guy puts his full hands on the shoulders of a girl who is queuing up outside the ice cream van. Like he came to stand behind her in line and put his hands on her. That's not something that you wouldn't notice.
Yeah.
Like, that's not, oh, well, they could be looking over at those kids playing football because they're like, oh, I plan to abduct one of them. Or it could be like, oh, I hope those kids are not going to kick that ball into my yard because then I'm going to, it might knock over my flowers or something. See, that's the thing where it could be ambiguous. A man who is not the, immediate family of a little girl coming up and putting his hands on her shoulders, that's something you guys should have noticed, actually. So we find out that the likely suspect, the unsub, is a white male in his late 20s or early 30s with a menial job. He's socially marginalized, not good at relating to adults. This is probably his first abduction because first-timers hunt close to home, whereas experienced predators don't. They say there's definitely been a recent stressor, perhaps a job loss, and that the guy can't maintain a normal relationship. He says there'll be lots of porn on his computer and in his home, and some of it will definitely be child sex abuse material. And Gideon says, and because of the dog, Bruce, because he's using that, we think that he did, or at some point, owned a dog named Candy. And I don't seek to tell child abductors how to commit better crimes. In fact, I wish you'd die rather than abduct a child. But using the name of your actual dog has to be the stupidest thing I've ever heard. I say the stupidest thing I've ever heard, but in all honesty, there's going to be more stupid things I hear when it gets to the real case, I'm pretty sure, where I'm going to be like, what the fuck? How did no one notice this?
And as you've said many times before, criminals are dumb.
Yeah, I think that should actually be the tagline of this podcast. Criminals are not geniuses. They're actually just dumb and slightly lucky.
Yeah.
Also, I'm thinking, well, could you not check vet records? And I think in the UK you do have to microchip your dog, so it makes sense that you would have to register them. So I'm like,
yeah,
is there not, can you not just call the local vets and be like, hi, does anyone have a dog named Candy that got put down this year?
Yeah.
And also, Even that, your neighbours would hear you calling your dog, you know, in the park, in the back garden. Just seems beyond stupid to me. But, as always, criminals are just fucking stupid. Gideon also says, hey, he's not the sort of unsub that would insert himself into a case. In fact, he is likely to be hiding, and he'll be watching the news carefully to see what the police know. So, time to deal with the press carefully. Which might have been something you could have done before giving that frickin' thing earlier. Never mind. And everyone is told, hey, check the first people you canvassed about this. You might have him on your records. Don't worry, Garcia's checking the local sex offenders. And, I mean, I think that's the first thing the police should have done. But whatever. I guess Penelope can do it. And then Gideon practically runs out of the briefing room. And we are back in the world of Penelope Garcia. More specifically, Penelope Garcia's house of How May I Save Your Ass Today? And, of course, it's Morgan, because why would anyone else call her? I mean, I feel like they do, but I feel like it's just going to be Morgan and Garcia to get more of the double entendres. Yeah, Morgan is like, hey, can you find me the sex offenders registry for Wilmington? And she's like, yeah, that sounds like fun. Anyway, did you know Gideon sent me flowers? Babe, I don't care. Sorry, did you not hear missing child? Sex offenders. Hello? Yeah, anyway, so I got some flowers. Shut up. Could you do your job, Garcia? Do you mind? Like, Morgan has to actually ask a second time to be like, could you actually look up the sex offenders? Thank you. Turns out there are no level 3 offenders, which is apparently the worst. There are a couple of level 2s, but they don't live very close by, like 6 or 12 miles. And although that's close for driving, you're not going to be walking 12 miles. Although I suppose Billy did leave in a car, so. Garcia is also, at this point, while going through this, still rearranging the flowers in her office. Oh, where should I put them? Nowhere, Garcia. Your office is a hole. It has no natural light. Put the flowers down anywhere and type in sex offenders, Wilmington, Delaware. Like, also, I don't see why you're fine with having a vase in your room full of water right next to the expensive equipment, but you can't manage to have a soda. So anyway, the level 2 sex offenders, they didn't have child victims. There's one level 1 sex offender. His name is Dennis Jones, but he lives a mile out, but he was arrested for solicitation of prostitution. So that's not necessarily he would abduct a child. Morgan says, yeah, probably not him. This guy that we're looking for wouldn't be able to perform with an adult. Garcia offers to do a deep background check on people in the area, but Morgan's like, nah, too late. Like, sorry, what? She's just moving a vase around in her office. Give her something to do. It's not busy work. Back at the house, William is questioning why they took all the cops off the street, and Elle is trying to reassure him that they know what they're doing. But Marilyn is looking a little worried again because she's seeing William take some medication, and I think that this means she doesn't know about the relapse. William tries to change the subject and ask Elle again about Billy, but Marilyn's like, you're sick again, aren't you? Shush. No, we don't have time for this. The daughter is missing. You can talk about his cancer later. Yeah, they don't have time to discuss this. The FBI want them to do a press conference, and William is not happy. He's wondering why they would do that at all, considering the FBI has already taken off the press that was running. The reason is because this time it will be different, but no one really explains what that is. William goes to answer the door and says, just tell Marilyn what you need us to do. And then Marilyn is again like, hey, how will I tell my daughter, who I hardly even speak to, that her dad is sick again? And I was like, could we just focus on the press conference, please? One thing at a time. Oh my god, it gets worse. The woman at the door is the woman from earlier, the paedophile sex freak woman. She introduced herself as Helen, but frankly, I'm not going to bother to learn her last name. She's like, I've printed out all of the sex offenders in the area if you want to check them out, see if they have Billy. Bad idea. William goes off running with these sheets towards his van before paedophile sex freak woman has even finished telling him, and she's yelling after him like, what do you think is going to happen here? You gave him print-offs of local sex offenders, and his daughter has been abducted. And Elle runs out to try and stop him, which obviously doesn't work because he is fully exiting the driveway in his truck by the time she gets to the front door. And paedophile sex freak woman is just like, hey, there are sex offenders in the area. I thought we should know. And Elle is like, you stupid bitch. You're disturbing a fucking FBI investigation. He's going to go beat someone up who's not got his kid, and we have to deal with that as well. Just shut up and go home.
I was surprised Elle didn't lump her, actually.
I might have been tempted. Elle just has more restraint than I do. So then the camera jumps quickly to a guy getting groceries out of his truck, and I think he's going to be literally violently attacked, and it's probably the guy who lives a mile away, that Dennis one who solicited a prostitute, which, as Morgan pointed out, means he's less likely to abduct children because victimology is not the same. I also do not think that engaging in the consensual exchange of sex for money should get you on a registry, because I can't believe this guy is going to be so, like, vilified because he once tried to say to a woman who was, or a man, just says prostitute, doesn't specify gender. So he just tried to hire a sex worker once, and now his life is ruined and he's about to get hit. By the way, it looks like he has a fucking hammer in his hands. William is crouched down behind the car, and then he literally is yelling, going, hey, Dennis, where's my daughter? And William's like, what the hell? But, William has a wrench in his hand that he's going to literally use to kind of cave Dennis's head in. Oh my god, Dennis throws his groceries at William, and William is like violently hitting him. Thank God the FBI turned up, and Morgan pulls William off of Dennis and hoists Dennis up and says, get inside. And Dennis is like, I've just been attacked with a wrench. And Hodge is like, his daughter is missing. And I'm like, I don't really make up for it. Again,
yeah, that doesn't excuse his behaviour.
Dennis did not take Billy, and also did not do anything to harm a child, as far as we know. So I do think that they could be a little more sympathetic. Yeah, I'm sorry, sir, don't worry. Please just go inside, see if you need a hospital. No one wants to check him over, like, does he have any wounds? But okay, I guess that we're just attacking people who have done low-level crimes for no reason now. That's fine. Anyway, Dennis walks inside the house and I suppose just goes on with his day. Gideon and Rosette are sitting in a car watching the last of the uniformed officers depart, and she asks him if he's sure this is going to work. And he's like, no, honestly, but all we can do is respond to what's in front of us, which does not give me a whole lot of confidence. So Gideon asks, do you know what scheme did the most harm with relation to preventing child abductions in this country? And before the detective can get a word in, reads like stranger danger, which is something that we were definitely taught about in school, Sarah, and is possibly still being taught in school today. A scary man might come up and grab you from the park. Again, very limited number. You need to teach your kids to look out for the other dangers as well, which can come from people you know.
Yeah.
Rossett gets a call in over the radio saying a cop car at the river has located the body of the female, and when they get there, the cop on scene is saying, we had an anonymous tip about a body in a river. It matches the description of Billy. And the detective beating herself up for not starting the search earlier. Reed is trying to comfort the detective and saying, you did all you could. And the detective, Rossett, is like, I cannot go down and view the body. So Gideon goes down instead. The coroner is taking the body out of the water. We get grainy images again. And I'm not sure if it's Billy, but Gideon puts his arm around Reed's shoulder as if it is. Cut to the police station. Hotch is telling William that Dennis is not going to be pressing charges. And William says, oh, we're supposed to be grateful that a paedophile isn't going to press charges against me for hitting him. And Morgan's like, he just tried to hire a prostitute. It's nothing to do with children. There are lots of ways you can get on that list, which is why law enforcement are supposed to investigate it, not random members of the public. Hotch then tells William very seriously, if we are chasing after you, we are not looking for your daughter. So either do what we tell you or stay out of our way. And then finally they get told, you're going to do a press conference where you state that you are looking for a witness driving a dark green SUV. And I know what you're thinking. It's the same thing the Copelands are thinking. That's not a witness. That's the answer. But therein lie the beauty of appeals for information. If you say, I'm looking for someone who's committed this crime, people won't report their neighbours or their relatives or their friends because they'll be like, no, well, I wouldn't be Johnny. He's so nice. He's always happy to go and cut down the rose bushes for me or shovel my walk. But if you say it's a witness who may not even realise they've seen something, people are like, oh my God, what if Johnny from next door doesn't realise that he saw something? I'm going to have to ring the police and be like, look, I think you might be a witness. Jump to the press conference. JJ is introducing the Copelands onto the stage, and William starts by saying, yesterday at 3 p.m, Billy went missing from the rec centre, and goes forward with the witness lie and says some people have made reports that he's a suspect, but that was a mistake. He's just a witness. And it's good he is finally following the BAU's advice. Oh, but that reporter that JJ had a thing with, oh my goodness, he looks like he's gonna cause trouble, and oh my fucking God, he does. About to leave the stage, the parents are accosted by a question from him going, hey, so the body found earlier, it wasn't Billy's?
What a dick.
Shut up. No. The parents have not even been told that there's a body found, and so they are freaking out. JJ is going to kill this guy. She looks like if ever they had something going on, they're not going to anymore. She runs up to him and screams like, how? What the hell was that? And to be honest, much more ashamed than I would have been, which would have been punching him straight in his extremely punchable face. Luckily, Gideon is there to say, no, it's not your daughter, don't worry. It's just another young woman that's died. You know, comforting words.
So
and
kind
he just kind of dismisses it a bit, like, no, this was a junkie. Like, all right, well, it might have been an overdose, but a young woman is still dead. Like, do you plan to release that information at all, or?
And Gideon needs some more empathy and compassion.
Yeah, I'm just saying, that's not a great way to approach the dead body of a woman. Back at the police station, Reed is bringing up the question that I was thinking all along. Hey, if he's not the type to insert himself into an investigation, maybe he's not on the initial canvas, because he might not have answered the door if there were cops and canine units crawling the street. And they reached the conclusion that, yeah, actually, you might be right, Reed. Even if he had Billy tied up and gagged, a canine unit would have still been able to sniff her out. So Reed says it's also very hard for him to control breathing or speech patterns. So maybe we cross-reference the tip line with people who weren't home during the initial canvass, or at least didn't answer the door, and thank God we've got somewhere to go. So Gideon comes in to ask the family how they're doing, and I think that's a dumb question to ask at this point. The dad is distraught about not being able to contact his daughter, and Marilyn is crying. As William leaves, Marilyn tells Elle that when he was sick, he said he didn't want his wife and daughter to watch him die, so he asked for the divorce. And Marilyn's been letting Billy think it was her fault rather than blaming the dad, which Elle says is an incredible sacrifice. And Marilyn's like, yeah, but now he's sick again and all I have left is a daughter who hates me. Gideon is trying to talk to William and say, hey, don't give up. But William's like, the cancer has already come back. It's already won. And Gideon says, hey, the extra time you had with Billy mattered to her. And the team is not going to rest until they find her. So Morgan and Reed are not having much luck with cross-referencing the tip line with people that weren't in. Morgan is hanging up and looks like he's about to give up. But luckily, the officer from earlier is like, hey, you guys, one of the people who's just called in has a neighbour with a green SUV and he hasn't seen him all day, which is unusual. Is that the sort of thing you might be interested in? Yes. Yes, it is. They go to speak to Mr. Lomax, and Mr. Lomax is ready to tell them everything about his neighbour, Don Curtis. He drives a dark green Explorer. He's always in the park. He hasn't seen him all day, which is weird because normally he's always outside the house. And oh my God, he used to have a golden retriever called Candy. So Morgan calls Hotch and says, get here now. Suddenly, they're all outside of his house, and Curtis isn't answering the door. He's pretending he's not home, and he's parked his car in the garage. Gideon's like, right, let's go break down the door. And Detective Russett is like, sorry, wait, what? No, you can't. We don't have a warrant. Anything you find in there is fruit of the poison tree. Unless you find Billy in the house, he will be able to get away with this. Wait for a warrant. And Gideon's like, no judge is going to sign a warrant based on the fact that he has a car, had a dog, and does go to the park. Gideon is like, you're weighing the life of a child against the price of a door. And no, Gideon, that's not what she's doing. She's not like, well, I don't want to have to pay $600 for a new door. She's saying, if you go in and you do not find Billy, he will get off scot-free. Hey, do you mind if we just use a bit of these checks and balances and limits on the powers of police? And Gideon's like, absolutely the fuck not. The detective's trying to ring a judge to tow his car. But Gideon is like, nah, don't worry about this. Runs off without saying anything to the other agents, who then have to chase him. And somehow he's still outrunning Morgan, which I don't understand. Literally, Gideon picks up a plant pot from the... It's hilarious. He picks up a plant pot and throws it through the window, which is unnecessary considering Morgan can kick the door open with one kick. All of the team are now searching the house with guns, and Gideon has found him. He puts a gun to Curtis's head and says, where's Billy? And Curtis is looking like he still thinks he has some way of getting out of this. And he's just like, whatever. Don't know what you're talking about. Me? Do you have a warrant? Gideon is like, tell us where she is, or I'm going to shoot you in the head. And Curtis does not play by the rules. He is dragged out of the house by Morgan and put in the back of a cop car, while Gideon orders the rest of the team to tear the house apart. But cut to the next scene, and one of the cops is telling Hotch, hey, we looked in the garage, we looked in the house, the girl's not here. And that might have been one of the reasons the detective wanted to wait for a warrant. Gideon comes into what must be the study, where Morgan is kneeling on the floor and putting VHSs into a video player. And it seems to be just watching kids play sport. Unfortunately, that is the lightest that the videos get, and it is quite clear that there are lots of adult porn, and then there's lots of child sexual abuse material that is neatly sorted into folders on the computer. Reed is going through that, and Reed's like, yeah, so he's got this, he's also got like graphic cartoons, like deviant cartoons. And I'm like, okay, I'm sorry, just 1 second, because Gideon is like, right, go to the internet history, shut all these sites down. And I'm like, sorry, you can't actually shut down all the legal pornography sites. Like, you want to shut down all the ones that are hosting abuse material, but what is Gideon's play here? Right, we're also going to shut down Pornhub. And it's like, maybe you should.
Although, speaking of Pornhub, it's like off track here. Have you heard the latest? So in the UK now, you can't just access Pornhub. You've got to sign up an account.
Oh, and like take a picture.
And like link your ID or credit card to prove that you're over 18.
I don't think this is actually going to make kids any more safe. I just want to point that out.
And there is other sites you can access without doing that, so the kids are going to find it anyway.
Oh, okay. I didn't know there were other porn sites you could access without doing that. We can't just shut down every porn site, Gideon. Could we just focus on the ones that have abuse material on? And also, what do you mean cartoon downloads? I'm sorry, is this... someone has drawn pictures of cartoon characters having sex? That's not illegal. That's a drawing. I don't care if Mario, Luigi, and Princess Peach are doing something in a drawing that someone has made and put on the computer.
Yeah.
Like, that really doesn't seem like something we need to get concerned about. Anyway, Reed's like, yeah, don't worry, I'm going to send it all over to Garcia and she can deal with it. All right, okay. Gideon comes over to the wall of videos that Morgan is going through and starts just tearing them off the shelves. Like, and I'd be like, cool, thanks. So I was going one by one methodically to make sure I didn't miss anything, but ripping an entire shelf of videos onto the floor was really super helpful. Thank you, Gideon.
Yeah.
Don't worry. I do hope I don't forget which ones I have watched and which ones I haven't. Kind of making my job harder.
Yeah.
And Morgan's like, you need to see this one. And he says it in a kind of whisper. You can tell that Gideon is not actually watching the film. He's just looking at a different wall. And Morgan stops the film immediately afterwards. I'm like, I don't know if this is enough to kind of pin the guy. So Reed is like, I think that Billy was here, but Curtis might have moved her. And he then begins running down other missing girls that were found 26, 30, or 52 miles away from where they disappeared. Polly Klaas, Danielle Van Damme, Samantha Runyon. So Reed is trying to be like, we searched the entire house. And Gideon's like, no, he would not have taken her somewhere in the car. He would have wanted to get off the street as soon as possible. We need to look more in the house. And it's like, okay, well, maybe instead of throwing videos on the floor, you could find her. You could go and find her. Are you trying to uncover a secret chamber behind the wall of videos? Like, the entire police team have searched the house. Do you think they've missed something? So Hotch approaches Curtis to tell him there's child sex abuse material on your videos and your computer. You're going to prison, but I can get you a deal if you help us. And Curtis is like, did you have a warrant? I didn't see a warrant. Shut up. And that detective was right. If you do not find Billy, he gets a pass on all of that child sexual abuse material he has. No matter how much he has, you cannot use it in court. Curtis then asks for a lawyer. And Hotch is like, well, if you do have a lawyer, we won't be able to talk to you anymore. Yeah, that's kind of the point, Hotch. That's why you asked for a lawyer. So Hotch is trying to convince Curtis that he should tell him where Billy is, get Billy back to her family. We'd like to hear your side, Curtis. You know how much we always like to hear a pedophile's side of the story. And Curtis is like, can you close the door? It's cold. Which makes me think he might not be all there because the window is still open for the door anyway. Hotch slams the door on Curtis and goes inside the house. He tells the detective and Gideon that Curtis is lawyered up, and the detective is like, yeah, of course. That's the first smart thing he does. Gideon, by the way, not helping with the search of the house, just sitting down in the front room. Hotch is then like, if you don't find Billy on these premises, we don't have exigent circumstances to get around that pesky warrant issue. And the detective is rightly saying, yeah, that's why I told you to fucking wait. But Gideon doesn't seem to pick up that anyone is criticising him, and he's just staring at this broom on the floor. Like, no, just take my word for it. Like, what the fuck are you doing, mate? Gideon then walks over, grabs the broom, and figures out there's insulation on the bottom of it. And honestly, even the word insulation makes me feel like there's a kind of creepy sensation all over my skin from whenever I've climbed in the loft. And then Gideon remembers seeing some white fluff on Curtis's jacket when he came out. So the girl is hidden in the attic or the crawl space. And I'm just thinking, what kind of crack investigative team is not checking the attic? I have several questions.
Me too.
But anyway, it's actually just around the corner and at the top of the hallway. So it's really quite funny because he doesn't look, he's just like pulled open the thing and there's not a ladder and it looks like he's just going to be like, hey Hotch, can you give me a boost? Luckily, Hotch goes and gets a dining chair and they very easily take the entrance down, and Gideon crawls up there to find Billy bound and gagged in the attic. He unties her and gives her one of the dog toys that he took from her room earlier in the episode, saying he brought it for good luck. And now he can take her home again. So he helps her get down from the attic into Hotch's arms so Hotch can take her outside and take her to her mum and dad. Cut to the jet and we get an Elizabeth Barrett Browning quote from Gideon. Measure not the work until the day's out and the labour's done. Which I think is sort of, you can only assess your actions after you've finished the work. There's no point second guessing yourself midway through a task. I don't know, I'm actually not that good. Reed, Hotch, Morgan and JJ are playing poker or some sort of other card game, I don't know. Reed is winning because he says it's just mathematics, and Hotch is like, yeah, you're actually from Vegas. Gideon is then like, hey, Hotch, did you send flowers to Garcia and say they were from me? And Hotch is like, yeah, you sometimes forget to let people know they're important, and then other people might not want to work with you again. But Gideon says, well, I already sent her an MP3 player. I thought it would last longer than the flowers and be more practical for her. And now he's worried that Gideon's worried that Garcia will think he's sweet on her. But everyone laughs at that, so I assume she's not going to think that.
Yeah.
Elle then says the Copelands are going to stay together, and Gideon says, yeah, that's good. But Elle is saying, well, he was dying, and, you know, maybe it would have been better had they stayed apart because Billy was used to him not being there. And Gideon's like, that is definitely not true. And cut to his office where he pulls out a new frame for his sideboard, and it's a picture of Billy from where she got her puppy. So we can determine that those photos aren't his family, but are in fact the people he's saved. The The camera scrolls across so you can see some of the people there. Two of the people are the twins from Broken Mirror. One of them is of Josh, the guy from episode 9 who would not shut up and constantly antagonized an unsub. Of all of the people on that train that you saved, why do you have a picture of him? I mean, granted, I don't want the man who was, like, probably going to Dallas to kill his wife, but what about the woman who was going to Dallas to get an abortion? Why haven't you got her photo? Why is it Josh? He made the job harder. I wouldn't be thankful that I saved him, if I'm honest.
Yeah. Anyway, thanks for that, Emma, and we'll be back with the episode discussion after this short break.
So, welcome back to Looking for a Man in His 30s. So, now we are going to move on to the episode discussion. So, first of all, we've got some interesting points.
Yeah.
So, key parts of the case were actually taken from an unspecified case that James T. Clemente, the show's BAU correspondent, worked on during his time at the unit. Also, I've got at the end of the episode, the camera pulls over Gideon's survivors, including Josh Patel, and I've written under that, why the fuck choose him of all the people on the train? But I had already covered that.
Yeah.
We also get the points about the Stranger Danger program, which ignores the fact that most child abductions and harm done to children are by persons known to the children, and how this left an entire generation of children unaware that strangers are only a small number of the offenders.
Yeah.
So again, tell your kids to let you know if there's any weird behavior. The neighbor asked me to come into his house rather than, well, that's just my neighbor and he's fine.
Regards to the Strange Danger program, was it, do you remember, did you have the thing where like there was this cabin brought to your school and there was like this giraffe talking to you? I forgot what the name of the thing is called. But
did I like, what?
Is that just a northern thing? It's like a cabin, like a truck came into the playground, and then your class would go and sit in it. There was like a classroom inside it, and then there was this like giraffe who'd teach you things. Not a real giraffe, obviously, a fake giraffe. But do you not know?
No.
Oh, might just be a northern thing.
I think that this is going to be one of those things that I'm just like, God, they're weird in the north.
It was like an educational thing. I'll try and find out what it was called and I'll let you know.
Okay. Anyway, we had a police officer come in and give us booklets about stranger danger.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And other things like what to do if you smell gas or what to do in the event of a fire. I never had a talking giraffe come to my school in a truck.
He taught us a lot of things. Anyway, moving swiftly on, should we get into the notable guest stars this week?
Yeah, sure. I wonder if any of them are giraffes.
The first one we have is Tracy Needham, and she plays Marilyn Copeland. And she's best known for roles including Paige Thatcher on Life Goes On, Lieutenant Junior Grade Meg Austin on the first season of JAG, as Inspector Candice DiLorenzo on The Division. We also have James C. Burns, who played Commander Lewis, and he's best known for his role as Sergeant Frank Woods in the military first-person shooter franchise Call of Duty. And he comes back in season 7 in the show to play a SWAT commander. And the final one we have is, I can't believe this is his actual name, Time Walters, and he played Kirk Lomax. And he does quite a lot of voice acting here and there, particularly on podcasts. And he also comes back into Criminal Minds in season 6 to play a different character. So, yeah.
I am also amazed that his name is Time.
Yeah. What is his brother called? Like in Century Eon.
I wonder if, like, I am just gonna Google Time Walters to just be like, in case it was some kind of spelling error and they actually meant to write Tim. I'm just gonna Google. Okay, so Time Winters, very sorry that we got your last name wrong. Although, considering your first name, I am surprised that that was what we got wrong. Anyway, shall we move on to our episode MVP?
Yes, we should.
Okay, so this is the section where we talk about our baby girl or pretty boy of the episode. The reason we chose these names is because they are Morgan's terms of endearment for Garcia and Reed. So, our pretty boy for this episode is
Gideon. Purely for his badassery, by ignoring the detective, smashing the window, and running into the house to save the girl. And also, how cute was it? You got a Garcia an MP3 player. I really missed that. I loved it. I had 3.
I still have an MP3 player.
Ooh.
I don't use it, but it is a backup.
Nice.
Yeah. In real life, I would not condone this because obviously, if you do not get a warrant, you would not be able to use that information in court.
Mm-mm.
But I am a sucker for seeing things just wrapped up really quickly.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that he at least went, should we check the loft? Yes, you fucking should.
Yeah. And as always, Gideon does as Gideon does. So,
yeah.
Do it regardless whether you say you can or not.
Yep. You cannot control Gideon. He is a law unto himself.
Yeah. Anyways, we will be right back with the true crime recap after this short break.
Welcome back to our true crime recap. Sarah, it's time to deliver the profile.
Thank you, Emma. So the unsub in this episode, Don Curtis, is what they call a hebephilic abductor. Someone who is primarily attracted to adolescents who are going through puberty, so roughly ages 10 to 14 years old. In terms of true crime cases, it appears that the unsub's character has been inspired by a man called Ronald Lloyd Bailey. In terms of the similarities between the two men, both men are paedophilic and hebephilic abductors who kidnapped a child in broad daylight from a park. Both men brought victims to their homes, and both were seen by a witness who later described their vehicles to authorities. The crimes were investigated by the FBI and arrested following tips from the public. Ronald Lloyd Bailey was born on February 21st, 1959 in Detroit, Michigan. Growing up, he was often at odds with his parents. His dad, Alfred, was strict and distant, while his mum was domineering and abusive and warned him against girls. As a child, he claimed that he was sexually molested by an older man, and he reportedly had his first homosexual relationship in the 3rd grade with a fellow classmate. At the age of 13 in 1972, he was admitted to the Hawthorne Center, a psychiatric hospital, for kidnapping and molesting a young boy on 5 Mile Road in Farmington. In September 1973, Bailey abducted a 15-year-old boy off his bike, tied him up, and sexually assaulted him at knife point in a buzz yard. A year later, in June of 1974, he was sent back to the Hawthorne Center after kidnapping and molesting a 12-year-old boy at knife point. Whilst at the center, he began an affair with a female nurse who was 10 years older than him. Despite him being described as a model patient during his stint at the hospital, upon his release, he soon went back to his old ways and kidnapped another 12-year-old boy in 1976 from the Westland Mall, drugging him and almost choking him to death before leaving him alone in the woods. Following this crime, he was apprehended and sent to a Wayne County Reform School after he pled guilty. He was then sent back to the Hawthorne Center again. During his 3rd stint at the Hawthorne Center, he escaped after being caught fondling another patient. Once he'd been caught, he was finally admitted to the Northville Regional Psychiatric Hospital. For the next 3 years, he was shuffled between the hospital and reform school, where he eventually graduated with a high school diploma. In 1977, psychiatrist Jose Tombo reported that Bailey had made excellent progress and even declared that he was following a normal growth pattern, despite Tombaugh catching Bailey in the act of taking drugs and sexually harassing another patient. Despite this, he recommended Bailey's release and asked for him to be remanded to community service for 5 years while continuing outpatient therapy. In the early 80s, Bailey moved to Florida to live with a friend, where he got a job working at a tire shop. He later admitted that during this period, he would approach adolescent boys between the ages of 14 and 16 near the Hernando and Daytona beaches, abduct them, and throttle them non-fatally. He later moved back to Michigan following an arrest for demanding oral sex from a minor. Back in Detroit, he got a job at the ARA Systems Coffee Service. In 1984, Bailey was apprehended and charged with the abduction and sexual assault of a 15-year-old boy in Redford Township. It was later discovered that many more young boys were abducted and molested by him in the same area. As his crimes escalated, there was no doubt that a fatality would eventually occur. In August of 1985, Bailey had planned to go on a fishing trip with a friend, but at the last minute his friend was unable to join him. When other friends and his girlfriend, the nurse from the psychiatric hospital from before, also refused to join him, he took his Jeep Renegade and began driving around, crashing to parties, drinking beer, and smoking marijuana. Once he ran out of cigarettes, he headed to a convenience store in Brighton, where he spotted 13-year-old Sean Moore drinking a soda beside his bike. He got his cigarettes and left, but later saw Moore cycling down the road. Bailey then decided to approach him, asking for directions, before forcing Moore into the car at knife point. Bailey drove him out to a cabin in Gladwin County, which belonged to his girlfriend's family. There, he forced Moore to drink and take drugs with him. Bailey cooked dinner for the pair before they fell asleep beside each other. The following afternoon, Moore was raped and throttled twice with a leather belt. The second incident proved fatal. On the third day, Bailey woke up to realise he'd spent the night next to Sean's body. Realising what he'd done, he panicked and disposed of the body in the nearby woods, hiding Moore under foliage. Unbeknown to Bailey, the abduction had been witnessed and reported to local authorities. Following a detailed witness statement, a composition sketch was released by Michigan State Police of the suspect that had been seen with Moore, along with a photo of the vehicle that was similar to Bailey's. In the hunt for suspects, Moore's parents were initially on the list due to their odd reactions to their son's abduction. On September the 3rd, the authorities established a command post at a warehouse in Brighton and started a reward fund to find the suspect.
Wait. Do you know what the odd reactions were?
It never said.
Oh, okay.
I looked in several places, but it never explained what the reactions were.
Oh. Well, I'm glad that all of that reform school and psychiatric hospital and community service really changed things for him.
Yeah.
Why the fuck would you let him go when you literally caught him sexually harassing another patient? Why would you think he's rehabilitated?
Yeah. And the fact he kept going back, they must have known something was going on.
Yeah, like at a certain point, shouldn't you be like, no, absolutely not?
I know, it's very strange. Very strange.
Incredibly, yeah.
A total of around $60,000 was distributed from this fund by the end of the case. As the kidnapping fell under federal jurisdiction, the FBI soon came involved, and Special Agent John Douglas, one of the FBI's first criminal profilers, was enlisted to help draft a profile of the suspect. And fun fact, the character of Jason Gideon in this show is based off this guy. After receiving 5 separate tips, authorities eventually narrowed down their list of suspects to Bailey. One tip was from a co-worker who reported seeing Bailey cleaning his Jeep thoroughly 2 days after the kidnapping. Another was from a police officer who noted his criminal history. Before the tip regarding his criminal history came in, Bailey was briefly questioned in regards to the crime, but claimed he had an alibi for the date in question, the fishing trip. But he was let go from the police.
Sorry, claimed he had an alibi as in they did not bother checking up on the alibi.
I have no idea. Either way,
Right.
he just believed him at his word and let him go.
Oh, yeah. You know, criminals, they're such a noble class. They'll always tell you the truth.
He was interviewed again when the tips came in, but as witnesses were unable to pick him out of the lineup, he was once again let go. However, authorities agreed to put him under surveillance. FBI agents later tailed him as he boarded a plane to Orlando, Florida. On September the 13th, Moore's badly decomposed body was found in the woods near the cabin by authorities. An arrest warrant was issued and he was soon captured in Florida. He was found living in an unfurnished shack covered in insect bites. He did not resist authorities when he was apprehended.
Well, isn't that just the sign of a criminal mastermind?
Yeah.
Found living in an unfurnished shack covered in insect bites. Ooh, yeah. What a genius.
It gets worse. While in custody awaiting trial, he also confessed that he had kidnapped, drugged, and murdered 14-year-old Kenneth Myers in Wayne County in the July of 1984. During his trial for Moore's murder, Bailey pleaded insanity, claiming that he'd been molested by his therapist, Jose Tombo, who denied the allegations. On October the 1st, 1986, Bailey was found guilty of first-degree murder and kidnapping and was sentenced to life imprisonment plus an additional 65 to 100 years. 2 months later, he was sentenced for a further 60 to 90 years for the murder of Kenneth Myers. In regards to his MO, he targeted young adolescent boys. He abducted them by force and took them to secluded locations. The boys were then either raped, throttled, or both. Sometimes the victims would be made to consume drugs and or alcohol. And that's it for this.
Thank you, Sara. Again, I am appalled by the idea that people were just like, oh yeah, you know, he was just molesting some other patient, so I figured he was fine to go. Oh yeah, I don't even know that he actually ever served any prison time before he was like found guilty of the murders. There were lots of abductions and sexual assaults before that, and they're just like, well, he might have to go to a reform school. What do you mean reform school? He raped a child.
Yeah. But there were so many stages through this where he could have been apprehended earlier.
Could have just done their job.
Yeah.
And been like, okay, no, you're not getting out again.
No.
You've committed a violent sexual assault against a child multiple times.
Yeah.
But instead it's like, oh, well.
Like the staff at the psychiatric hospitals could have stopped him. The psychiatrists could have stopped him. The authorities could have stopped him. But at each stage, he was just let go.
Yeah.
With a slap on the wrist.
Yeah. Community service.
And if he'd been apprehended before, he wouldn't have killed these people. So.
Yeah. Exactly. And I can't imagine that you're just like, well, maybe he should do some community service. He didn't. He didn't graffiti a wall.
No.
What are you doing? Treating violent assaults like this? Oh my god. Sarah, we are just going to have to jump into our Penelope Garcia section because I'm going to lose my mind. So this brings us nicely to the What Would Penelope Garcia Do section of the podcast, which is where we want to link people with resources to help them or highlight a cause that might need charity donations, there might be a petition to sign, etc., etc. So what would Penelope Garcia do? Sarah, do you want to take us away with the UK?
Yep, thank you. So in the UK, there is a charity called Action Against Abduction. And the charity's mission is to protect children from the threat of abduction, which includes abduction by a family member, by people known to the children, but not related, and strangers as well. And the charity aims to provide parents with the best information to protect their children and ensure that professionals have the right policies in place for the children's safeguarding. As an alternative to the stranger danger approach, The charity has a program called Clever Never Goes, which provides teaching resources to parents and schools that focuses on unsafe situations rather than warning against strangers. The premise of this program is to teach children that they must never go anywhere with anyone unless plans have been made beforehand and that all parties involved are aware of these plans. This then gives children the confidence to trust their own instincts and teaches them how to react in unsafe situations. For more information or to access resources, you can visit the website at actionagainstabduction.org, or you can email them at support@actionagainstabduction.org. And on to Emma with the USA.
So the cause that I'm highlighting is the National Centre for Missing and Exploited Children, sometimes called NCMEC in police procedurals. It's been going since 1984 and was set up to provide a coordinated national response to problems relating to missing and exploited children. They have helpful resources on their website for children who were abducted and their immediate families, but it doesn't stop there. They also have information that will help minors take down any sexually explicit material of them online from a video or photograph taken by an abuser, but also in the case of teenagers, someone you may have met, trusted with these images, like, for instance, a partner. Remember, it is never your fault if someone posts a picture of you online that is sexually explicit. And the centre will actually help children and teenagers to report these images to the website or internet provider, monitor for takedowns, and send other notices about pictures that come up online after this. There's also a link for media being shared of you online if you are over the age of 18, but I'll just put that in the show notes. They also have tip lines for people to report child sexual exploitation, which is super helpful because last year several people filed a lawsuit against Pornhub for profiting off videos of the plaintiffs that were taken when they were underage. And, oh my goodness, I had vaguely heard of this, but I'll pop the Reuters link in the show notes because Pornhub isn't exactly a dark web sort of site, as me and Sarah were talking about earlier in the episode, so people could easily stumble across child sexual abuse material without meaning to. So this is where you report it, because if you don't know where the uploader is, how do you know what police department to call? Instead, NCMEC will help you report it. And they also have a lot of resources to keep your kids safe under the Kids Smart section. So teaching them things like do not go off with anyone else unless they've okayed it with you first. So the website for the charity as a whole is www.missingkids.org. And you'll be able to find all of the links in our show notes.
And that's all for this week. We'll come back next week when we'll be talking about Criminal Minds, Season 1, Episode 13, Poison.
While you're waiting for the next episode, why not follow us on social media? We're on Instagram at Looking for a Man in His 30s Pod, Tumblr at Looking for a Man in His 30s Pod, or you can email us at lookingforamanhinhis30s@gmail.com. All 3 times, 30s is spelled out. Don't put 30 or you might get one of those bots that Instagram clearly thinks we are.
And you can also rate and review us on whichever platform you're using to listen to podcasts. It really helps more than you know.
Until next time.
This case is closed.